Ollie has a very, very high pain threshold because he deals with me on a regular basis. So this is fine.
I know those dynamics.
Ollie, this is me pretending to get ready for you. Well, ignore the stain, that's makeup. It's very obvious. It's not food. That I didn't record this on time because my hair is I've lost half of my hair. I am getting ready to interview Julie Menanno. Julie is a couples therapist, licensed, let me see what she is. Couples therapist and licensed marriage counselor. She's also the author of bestselling book Secure Love and the Secure Love podcast. Let me try that again. Julie is about to be on Oprah. I'm very excited to talk to her. Get rid of the I'm very excited to talk to her. I say that every I cannot wait to speak to Julie, and I'm not going to talk about my own experiences, relationships, because I want to give the illusion to any men listening that I am, we're going to talk about attachment styles, secure love, Ollie. Okay, I hope you enjoy the show. I'm going to do my very, very, very handwritten, on my card, introduction for you.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay. All right. So today I'm joined by no other than Julie Menanno. Julie is a licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed clinical professional counselor and relationship coach. She's also the author of best-selling book, Secure Love, and the host of the Secure Love podcast. So a huge part of recovery is examining your relationship with yourself, and that work always kind of leads into your relationships with other people and with the world around you. My producer has informed me that I should not be using this as a free therapy session, so I'll be on my best behavior.
You'll be the only one. Everybody else does, so.
I know, I'm totally lying. I'm going to go back and read through this transcript.
Please do.
All self-motivated questions. So firstly, help. And secondly, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It is just lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am going to get right in there with a big question. Julie, what is love?
Well, love is, in my opinion, it's a feeling and an action. And so the feeling is a feeling of wanting to care for someone, wanting to connect with someone, wanting to be with someone. It's a motivation, right, to move toward. But it's not enough, because now we have to pair that with the actual action of expressing the love, which is doing the things that are caring, doing the things that are pulling someone in, pulling someone closer to connect with them. So it would be like, you have an appetite and you're hungry, but it doesn't matter if you're not doing the thing that you need to do to get the food in your mouth, right?
So I feel like there's this idea of what love is. It's like a feeling. You get swept off of your feet. If you know, you know. Is that bollocks?
No, it's just that you have to take action to sustain that. It won't sustain itself. It's a real feeling, And so now, well, how do we sustain it? Well, for one, we have to know how to sustain love by the behaviors that are loving, that sustain love. And then you also have to, be careful about, am I in a relationship with a person who also knows how to sustain love?
Do you think that most people are capable of being in a healthy relationship? Or do we all need a little bit of help?
I think we all need help. I think to varying degrees. I mean, I think that, love is a learning growth process, and some people are not capable of it. They have a lot of growth to do, and some people are very capable of it and still have more growth to do.
So just out of, having spoken to so many couples and everything, do you feel as though a disconnect between people is growing? Because,
Yes.
You do. That's so interesting.
Absolutely.
Why would you say that?
Because of disconnection to self. I think that it starts with disconnection to self. So, we get in relationships and we have the initial feelings of excitement and, like you said, the love feeling, and that's kind of enough to keep things going. But then we move into, okay, now we're going to start having more conflict because hard decisions are coming up or whatever. We don't know how to get through that. And then just kind of like the ordinary life that people, life can get, kind of mundane, and so are we able to offset the mundane with copious amounts of emotional connection, which requires two people who are emotionally connected to self? And are we able to resolve conflict together with vulnerability and healthy assertion, and which stems from two people who know how to connect emotionally to self? So none of it works if we can't first connect emotionally to self. And when I say that, I mean the ability to kind of step back from triggers, step in, go, okay, what's going on with me? Where's my nervous system at? What's the feeling coming up? What is this feeling needing? What's important about my anger? What's my anxiety trying to tell me? What are the feelings under that? What am I afraid of right now? And when people can't do that, it's really difficult for them to function optimally in relationships, because that is a connection to self. Without that ability to connect this to self, it's just not possible to fully connect with another person, because you, A, don't know what to share with them, and B, you don't know how to help them with what's going on in them with what you can't find in yourself. And again, it's not black or white. It's varying degrees of awareness and ability along this journey.
I'm fascinated by you, and I'm fascinated by this subject matter, because I don't know, I feel like love and relationships is the thing where it doesn't matter how intellectual a person is, like logic can go out the absolute window.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But why do you think that is?
Because I think we live in a culture where we're very logic heavy, and we're not doing enough of the emotional work, with the nervous system work, which is, let me go back to the hunger analogy. It's like, okay, I know I'm hungry in my head because I just know it, right? But it's different from stepping in and going, well, how do I know I'm hungry? Oh, because I feel this feeling in my stomach. It's twisting up, or, being able to name the actual physical sensations of hunger. And we might not need to do that because we've been trained from a young age to associate the physical feeling with the word hunger and knowing we need to eat. But when it comes to other emotions and other physical sensations, there's a disconnect there. Let me see if I can give you an example. I have a couple I just finished with. He was saying, look, I want, when I feel let down, right? I just want to know that it'll hurt her to hurt me. Okay, now that sounds kind of bad, right? But it's not, because what he's saying really is, I want to know that she can actually empathize with me. I want to know that she can put her foot into my world and feel some of my pain, because that's empathy. And so what she wants to do, which is what a lot of us want to do, is she wants to say, I understand why that would hurt you. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, except for in her case, it's missing that felt piece, which is logically she sees it. Logically she sees, yes, I understand that, that situation disappointed you and how you would be disappointed. But what she was missing is being able to kind of step into herself and go, wow, he felt alone in that moment or whatever it was. And I can feel some of that in my body. And to be able to say, you know what, I can see how that hurt your heart. She's not necessarily taking responsibility for intentionally trying to hurt him. And she had her own thing going on, but she's able to step in. Well, she can't do that for him and actually physically feel with him unless she can physically feel and relate to that within her own body. And her, as this avoidant attached partner, she's learned to disconnect from that.
Because ultimately, I feel at least that at the root of all this stuff is fear of not being enough or not being loved or being left. Yes. And so with what you just touched on, it really made me think about, people in recovery, because I mean, I can only speak for myself, but also friends of mine, where we we hated ourselves when we were drinking or using, etc. And life was just constantly scary. Everything was just like laced with fear. And then you get sober and you enter recovery and you start to do work on yourself, and you can sort of identify what those emotions are that you were feeling or what those fears might be and what you can do to combat that. But I didn't know the extent that sort of fear ran my life. And my friends have said the same for them also. Like, what do you think are the most common fears that you see with couples that you speak to?
All of the fears circle back to the same place. We fear disconnection, and surrounding disconnection is like rejection. We fear our shame being touched, and that also circles into disconnection, rejection, abandonment. And we fear having grief. We fear grief. And that grief can be the grief that we might experience going forward if we were to be in a state of loss, or it could be fearing grief getting touched from old wounds that haven't been healed yet. So if, virtually any behavior that someone is doing that is not the healthiest behavior is going to be related to a fear that circles back to one of those three places. And really, they all kind of go to the same place, which is disconnection.
Yeah, I wanted to, in relation to that, and then what you said earlier about, noticing more disconnect with people. Do you think in part that's things like, social media, the pressures of daily life? We have things like eating disorders and addiction on the rise, all of these things to like sort of numb, like a damaged sense of self. And do you really see that contributing in the work that you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're really in a bad spot. I mean, I think that people are getting this stuff from their families, and then they're getting it from the culture. And it's just too much. It's too much for our nervous systems to handle.
What do we do?
Well, I think, luckily, I think there's a way out. I mean, I think that people really have to start learning how to show up for themselves emotionally every time that these triggers come in. You're either going to go into a reactive state, or you're going to kind of sit with your emotions and figure out what's going on with me, what's happening here. And it's a learning curve. I mean, it takes a while to learn how to speak the language of your own body and to be able to reach for resolution in a healthy way. And I understand that not all of us have partners who can respond to that with health, but we can still show up for ourselves even when they can't. The same goes for the triggers that are coming outside of relationships. When you open that post, right, and you see this person who has this perfect life, you got to be able to notice something hits you that hurts, because otherwise, if you do get a trigger and you just stuff it away, those build and build and build. So you got to be able to just, once you get good at it, it can be as simple as, oh, I just saw that person with this beautiful new home, and yeah, it triggered this place in me that says, am I enough? Am I doing it right? What's wrong with me that I'm not getting it right? Ouch, that hurts. Yeah, there's some old stuff there. Sit with that for a bit. Okay, I'm all right. Let me just reach out to someone who loves me. Let me give myself some reassurance here. It's not like leaping into, oh, that's true. Look how good I'm doing. Like talking yourself down. It's actually stepping in and feeling a little bit of that grief, because that feeling that you're feeling when you see this picture and this shame and sadness really come up, it's old. It's been there. It doesn't get triggered if it didn't come from somewhere. So it's just a matter of almost like just catching these feelings, doing a little grief work, because it always goes into, a sadness, and then choosing to kind of re-engage from a place of presence, because otherwise we're just blindly going through life with all these triggers, just bam, 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 coming from every direction. And no wonder people need to drink, to escape all of this. Who wouldn't?
100%, but also just not having access to the tools you need to be emotionally fluent or to really understand yourself. It's such a privilege.
Yes, it really is. I agree with that.
Something I think a lot about is vulnerability, right? This show is all about being completely honest, even if it is something that is not going to make you look too great. Because I'm a real believer that sort of, secrets are poisonous, right? When I have a secret, that's what eats away at me. So this is all about honesty, but then also when it comes to vulnerability, I feel like at times I can struggle with it, right? But I didn't realize there are so many different types of fear of vulnerability and how it shows itself. Could you maybe talk me through that a little bit? Like, what are ways that you see it show up in people, and has it changed?
Yeah, well, since it's fresh in my mind, I'll go back to the couple that I just worked with where, for her vulnerability is centered around asking for help for her emotional needs, right? So she got messages growing up that your feelings burden other people. Don't hurt because we don't have time to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with your hurt. Keep it to yourself. Do it on your own, right? So she got a message, one, that her feelings are actually a threat and burden to others. She got messages that she's actually being shameful if she shows up with emotion. So it's not just don't go there because we'll be burdened. And we're going to send you messages that you're wrong for having these feelings to begin with. You're weak. And then on top of that, she didn't have any experience where it was even valuable to share emotions at all. Okay. So what happens for her is that she just doesn't ask for any help. She just doesn't show up for her partner whenever, her feelings get hurt and she feels dropped. Her go-to is, well, just stuff it down and deal with it on my own. But then what happens is, and this is so common with couples, is that then the other partner who is more likely to reach for help, when he reaches for help, that's the only time her stuff comes up. And then she's over here going, but what about all the help I need that she never talks about? And now she's using his reach to reach on her own. And now their wounds are just bumping up against each other. So one way of fear of vulnerability is just thinking that there's no space for your feelings to begin with. There's many ways,
Oh, that's so interesting. I had never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Because I guess you're putting a wall up for the other person that they just can't get through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Huh. Yeah. There's always going to be that anxious partner and that avoidant partner. And that I always like to say the anxious partner is asking and not getting. And they're probably not asking with a lot of vulnerability. And the avoidant partner is not asking and not getting.
For any listeners who don't know about attachment styles, etc., which I can assure you is none, because like the recovery community, we're all just like, taking quizzes and stuff online. But
sure.
Yeah. Actually, I made my producer Ollie do one today, and apparently he is secure.
Oh, yay. Good for you.
Medium self-esteem.
Okay. Medium. That is so funny that they have a category for medium. I love it.
I got a mixed bunch, which I won't say because I'm dating someone right now and he needs to think I'm perfect. And Ollie just sent me a WhatsApp saying, you bastard. Okay, so anyway, so
I'm gonna remember that forever. Medium self-esteem. You know what? Medium self-esteem, that's actually probably really healthy. Like,
it's where you want to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's where you want to be. There you go. Ollie, king of men. Anyway, so, yes. Just to take it back for anyone who isn't familiar with, what secure love is, the root of all of these things, could you give us a little, yeah.
Yeah. So secure love. Every time I get asked this, I define it in a different way. But I would say that you're in a relationship where your emotional needs are met. Actually, here's a good way to say it. One question. Are you going to be there for me when I really need you emotionally? And if the answer is yes, then you probably have a really secure attachment. And if the answer is, I'm not sure, then there's some work to do. And so, we talk a lot about communication, but communication is really just a delivery system for emotional safety, right? So really what couples need is they need to feel emotionally safe and they need to feel emotionally close. And that needs to be happening in the overall climate. When you think about your partner, your thoughts are like, oh, if I really need them, they'll be there for me. And then if there is a moment where you have a rupture, where someone gets dropped emotionally, or both people get dropped emotionally, are you able to repair that and get back on track? Because no couple is perfect. The healthiest couple in the world will have ruptures where they drop each other and life happens and our resources are low. A step ahead of that is attachment needs. We need these attachment needs to be met, because it's when the attachment needs are met that we have the emotional safety. Emotional safety comes from communication. That means attachment needs. So that sounds like I feel understood. I feel emotionally empathized with. I feel validated. I feel like my needs matter to you. I feel like a priority. I'm valuable to you. I feel like I can get it right for you, that the bar won't just keep going higher and higher, that you don't see me as a failure. There might be a couple other ones I'm missing, but that's just the bare minimum, right? And so when those needs are met and we can predict that they're going to continue to be met, then we just have this felt sense of safety. If those needs are met, we don't have to worry about being abandoned. We don't have to worry about, being viewed as unworthy by our partner or being rejected, because those needs are met. And so when those needs aren't met, they create a state of pain and fear. Some people, when they have this state of pain and fear, whether it's just in the big picture of the relationship or even just in a rupture, their response to it is going to be kind of get panicky, try to close the distance, try to reach, try to get instant resolution. And they sometimes they go into protest mode or blaming mode. And that's an anxious attachment, because their move is to escalation and reach, in often ways that end up pushing away. And then we have another person, and their reaction to the pain and fear is to just shut it all down, just stuff it away, pretend it's not there, maybe just get defensive with their partner to try to push the heat away, numb out, try not to have needs. And that person is an avoidant attachment, because they're trying to avoid the pain, whereas the anxious partner is trying to fix the other person so the pain goes away, or motivate the other person to change. And then we have disorganized, which is kind of a mixture of all of it. There's not a lot of predictability there. Someone with anxious attachment is fair. They're going to be pretty predictable in the way they handle their relationship hurt. And then someone with avoidant is also going to be predictable. Someone with disorganized, again, it's not as predictable. And then someone with secure, they're going to be able to kind of step back and go, okay, what's going on with me right now? I'm not, and this doesn't even necessarily have to happen consciously. It's just that they have this inner awareness where they can go, okay, what's going on? What's happening with me? All right, let me just kind of soothe myself here. Let me kind of do a little self-regulation. Now let me go into this and put some words to this to my partner and let them in on what's going on with me. Or maybe I need to kind of co-regulate them right now. And so it's a matter of the nature of our fears and how we manage those fears.
It's so interesting. I mean, how do you see these? Let's take an avoidant or an anxiously attached or disorganized individual. How do you see these things form? What is the recipe?
Yeah, so someone with avoidant, they're typically going to grow up in a home where they had very little help knowing about their emotions. Nobody's talking to them about. They learn very early on, don't bother. Just don't go there. Emotions they're not a thing here. They're not going to get attention. They're not going to get help. They might get shamed. They might get punished. So just kind of push them away. That person might have a temperament that they're like an inborn temperament that makes it easier for them to do that. They just have kind of less sensitivity to start with. So that coping mechanism is easier for them. And they may have also experienced their emotional world as being intruded upon. Like sometimes they have a parent who doesn't have good emotional boundaries. So they just learn, for whatever reason, it's just safer to keep that world over here and instead go through the world just trying to get your needs met by being successful or, following all the rules or whatever, just checking all the boxes. It's a very kind of heady way to go through life. And then we have the person with the anxious attachment. They're also not going to get any emotional support, but they might get it sometimes. So they kind of sometimes know what it's like. So they get a little taste of it, enough to know they want it, but then it gets pulled away and then it gets put back in. And then there's some emotional chaos. And then they're told a lot of the time, your emotions are too big, your emotions are too much when you do show your emotions. And so they just learn to kind of chronically be crying for help. And the idea is if I just keep crying for help, maybe someone will sometimes be there to respond to me.
So there's like a lot of self-sabotage going on here from both parties, essentially.
Yeah, self-sabotage in an attempt to stay safe, emotionally safe. Everybody's trying to stay safe. The result is sabotage, but the desire is to feel okay and stay safe.
Like in the same way, right? In certain situations, saying like something along the lines of I'm an alcoholic or I have this issue or I have an eating disorder can be life-saving because it's identification and then a sense of I belong here and there's something I can do about this. When it comes to labels like avoidance or, anxiously attached, do you think that because it's about love and relationships, there can be a feeling of like hopelessness attached to that of like, oh, I am this is what I am? Or do you think it's like a really helpful guiding force and okay, cool, now I can work towards the right direction?
Either. I think that I always say this, look, use labels to the degree that they work for you. And once they're not working for you anymore, that's where we need to kind of reassess, how am I using this label? So I like the labels because if it helps people make sense of themselves, understanding themselves in the service of solution and healing, because I just want to put this out there. There's so much hope here in learning to do this work and understand yourself and your relationships through the lens of attachment. I mean, that's the whole reason that we're doing it and having this conversation is because it provides us with a map for healing. But if those labels are now getting in the way and they're leaving someone feeling stuck or, demoralized or like this is a hopeless situation, that's when we want to pull back and go, okay, wait a minute, hold on. That's not what we're doing with this label. This is not like a death sentence. These attachment styles are created in relationships and we can cure them in relationships.
Do you think that we put too much on our partners?
Yeah, I think we put too much of the wrong thing on them. I think that a lot of times, like I always like to say it like this, like anxious partners are seeking too much co-regulation at the expense of self-regulation. They're not doing enough of their own work. So they're needing more from their partner than their partner can realistically give. But even if their partner could realistically give, they probably don't know how anyway. So they have their own work to do, right? And then the avoidant partner, they lean too heavily into self-regulation or their version of self-regulation, which is stuffing their feelings away, at the expense of co-regulation. And so in a way, that is putting too much on their partner because it's leaving their partner alone. So when people can figure out how to get all of this right and in balance, it's actually very easy to show up for each other. It's actually way less labor intensive than the fighting and all of the symptoms that come from not being able to do it.
I really do not believe in you can't teach an old dog new tricks at all.
I don't either. No, I have a lot of old dog clients. Yeah, I have a 80-year-old client right now that I don't want to call him an old dog because he's lovely. But yeah, he's learning new tricks. Yeah.
It's true. Like you see people get sober and, they go from being homeless to like running a company, having like, people can change.
Absolutely.
And it's so, I don't know, I think it's incredible. I think that's a message that just needs to be out there a little bit more.
I agree.
Right. Okay, right. So this is a rogue question that I'm going to just like throw in the mix. Does secure attachment make sex less exciting?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it makes it, more sustainably emotionally connecting. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to word this in the right way, but like novelty exhausts itself, right? So like if you just keep looking for more and more ways to spice things up, you're going to run out of options, and you won't run out of options when you have this like deep sense of emotional connection. And that is very much sustainable. And it doesn't take away from bringing things in to be novel and spice things up in a traditional excitement. But that stuff isn't going to last without the sustainability of the deep emotional connection. And it's very difficult for couples to do that deep emotional connection part if they're not living a life that is emotionally connecting outside of sex.
So you've just made me very happy, number one. But number two, with what you said about novelty, I feel like, especially in this day and age, when it comes to people who've got their dating apps, this instant gratification, there's always something better around the corner. And like even in addiction, it's this feeling of more and more and more, like a constant wanting to fill a void. But what is more? Like, where is the finish line? Like, there just isn't one.
Yeah.
And then I guess also, like, you see the divorce rates, etc. It's very easy, at least, to think that, oh, relationships are just inevitably not going to work out. In whatever, dynamic or way that relationship looks for you. Is that just really negative thinking, or is that like a consequence of the world that we live in now?
I think it's very real. I think it's a consequence. I don't think it has to be like that. It's almost like there's this decision point multiple times a day between this kind of self-indulgence that never really fills you up, or love. Like, am I going to live for just constantly needing more and more and more to look the best way, to have the most things, to, have sensory stimulation and mental stimulation? Or am I going to also live for growing as a person, giving back to people, loving the people who need me? And it's like, I don't know if we're balancing out with all of this stimulation we have and this chatter in the background. I don't know if people are balancing that out enough. And it's like self-indulgence.
It is. I feel like we live in self-obsession almost, right? Like, absolutely.
Yeah. Self-absorption. Yeah.
Totally. And then when you're in that, like, self-awareness, just it's gone, I don't know. What do you think that we can do to sort of combat that? Because like from like an overstimulation standpoint, like even just putting my phone away or going out into nature makes the biggest difference. Like, how can we go back to basics?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I think for one, the emotional health part has to be on board. I think we just have to get people emotionally healthy. And there's no way around that. It's like trying to do all this without eating nutritious food. It won't work. Our bodies won't work properly, So we've got to figure out how to get ourselves emotionally healthy, how to raise our kids emotionally healthy, and how to be emotionally healthy in relationships. Absolutely learnable. These are skills that you can learn. But then I think there has to be, we have all of this information, all of this chatter coming in that is pulling us into this road of, like we said, self-absorption. Personally, I multiple times a day take time to, and I do this through prayer. This is my way, of doing it, which is just meditating on things like being more humble, being less ego-driven, being more, how can I love the people who need me more, and I have to, it's just like my way of constantly resetting my brain into that place, rewiring my brain into that place. And I think it takes a lot of intention. It's like the only way, I think, to offset all the other stuff, this culture of just crud. I mean, I don't know a better word to say it. Yeah.
And like motive, maybe also, like, is this like, is this behavior coming from fear, or is this coming from love? Like, is it,
absolutely. Yes. Because that's what I want to say too, all the self-absorption, it's not bad people. It's not like you're being bad and self-absorbed. You're trying to fill this void inside of you that actually gets filled by giving back to others, I think. And of course that can get out of balance too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, I really believe in sort of finding yourself by forgetting yourself, in terms of like helping other people and doing something for other people. But I don't know, it's the process. I'm still on the process. I know lots of, I feel like, actually, that takes me to this. They always say you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else, right? It's something that's come up on the show time and time again. But like, does anybody really wholeheartedly love themselves? And I feel like it can put in this feeling of you have to be perfect, which doesn't exist, in order to be able to function in something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in perfection by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think people can learn to love themselves. But I think it's a practice. Like you said, motivation. Am I being motivated by fear? Am I being motivated by love? I think fear is the opposite of love. So if you are able, I think it's a matter of how you're doing your own emotions is how you're loving yourself. And not just your emotions, but I think you'll agree with this too, like all levels of self-care.
And I'd love to ask you a little bit about sort of like projection and fantasy. Sort of, do you think, how can someone tell the difference between, for instance, really, really, really adoring somebody or just filling in the blanks with who they think that they are and getting off on a fantasy, like almost using it as a drug in some way?
Okay, if someone is having consistent experiences with another person where they feel a felt sense of being understood, being seen, being heard, being validated, and good feelings are coming from that, that's sustainable and that continues over time. I mean, that's your nervous system saying, I feel calm, I feel relaxed with this person, and I continue to do so. And I have all this evidence based on getting to know them and repeated interactions that I'll continue. I trust that I'll continue to feel this way with them. I mean, that's the answer. I think, getting in a situation with what you're describing where it's just like this rush of excitement and this kind of like intensity. Yeah, it's real, but is it sustainable? I think it's a question of like, how sustainable is this?
How much do you think that we project of our own shit onto the people that we date?
Let me ask you this. Clarify projection. So I know.
Sure. So, yes, this is therapy. No, so.
Yeah, use yourself. Give me an example.
Okay. Well, so like, for instance, a fear or a belief of yourself. If a person thinks, definitely not me,
your friend.
If my friend Shmana thinks that, something is going to end, then potentially like projecting that onto another person when it doesn't even exist. Or even, a lot of my friends and I, when we were drinking, like behaved in ways in relationships that we were not proud of, right? And because that was our past behavior, then coming into sober dating when you're more self-aware, you can sometimes think the other person will behave that way because you did.
Yeah, this I think is happening a lot for people who have healing to do. Because what you're saying is you're talking about shame, basically. You're saying I'm carrying around these kind of negative views of myself, and the way I make sense of my failures or the way I make sense of what I'm getting wrong in the world is through this kind of lens of shame that I picked up a long time ago, or I picked up in some of the behaviors that I've done as an adult. And when we do carry those self-beliefs and we're not actively challenging them and healing the feelings surrounding those self-beliefs, we absolutely will project them onto others, because that is it's like your template. You can't not. If you believe my failures are because I was just born sort of like fundamentally flawed and unlovable in some way, there's really no way out of assuming that other people see that in you. So there's a lot of self-healing, when I'm working with a couple and I'm trying to do some shame work. And I ultimately want to have one partner be able to reach for the other as a resource to help them not feel shamed. Can I get some reassurance right now that like how you view me is in this positive light and you don't view me in this way? But I can't do that with them until I do that work with them as an individual first, because they won't buy it. Their nervous system won't be able to take it in.
So that's very interesting, because I said that like every single time you've said something, because my next question was actually going to be, what do you do if you're doing the work and then the person you're with isn't, right? Because what are you the person that should be, behave better behave to a certain, behave in a certain way because you're the one who has the tools, or, how does that work?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I get that one a lot. So, there's the first thing is that everybody should, aspire to be their best selves, regardless of what they're getting from the other person or not getting. That doesn't mean a doormat. It doesn't mean that you continue to go to that person vulnerably trying to get needs met that they're not able to meet. But it does mean that you're able to communicate yourself from a place of health. And a lot of times if there's a strained relationship and one partner kind of pulls back, I always work with these negative cycles where partners get into conflict and one gets anxious or more desperate trying to be heard and the other starts pulling away trying to keep the peace or gets defensive. So I always say, look, these cycles are the enemy, not your partner, right? And so I encourage every person I work with, do your part to get out of your side of these cycles. You move out of your behaviors that aren't working. And then what happens a lot is if that happens, then the negative energy in the relationship starts to ease up and it creates more safety, and people thrive in safety. And so there is a very good chance that the other partner, maybe not right then, as their nervous system settles, they'll start leaning more in towards self-growth. So there's so much value in doing it, but there's no guarantee. So then what?
Like everything you say rings true. I think it completely makes sense. But how do you do that without feeling a little bit resentful? like I'm putting in all of the effort. I'm shutting up right now. And then look at this guy, oh.
No, it's hard. And I don't honestly think it's about not having resentment, because resentment is normal in a situation where you have this person who has committed to a relationship with you, but isn't wanting to do their part in showing up with health. I think that the resentment is appropriate there. So now it's like, well, what do we do with the resentment? Well, we can do something healthy with it, or we can do something not healthy with it. We can just let it sit there and not get expressed, or we can act out passive aggressively, or we can act out aggressively, or we can say, I just need you to know that I am carrying a lot of resentment. And if I don't express this, I don't want to beat you up. I don't want to yell at you. I don't want to be passive aggressive, but I need words for this because it is hard. I'm in a lot of pain. I feel alone. I feel like I'm really putting a lot of effort in to reach you and you're not there. And of course my body is resentful. That's my body's way of saying something isn't working here. And if I don't put words to this, I'm afraid I'm just going to act it out. And I just need you to know. That's healthy assertion. So it's not ignoring the resentment, but it's also not allowing it to come out reactively. It's just
sideways.
Exactly.
So how does heartbreak influence our future relationships? Because I know a few people who, have had one really bad heartbreak and then the bets have just been off for them.
Yeah. So it's really, how do we make sense of the heartbreak? Are we making sense of it in a way that causes us to have fear and shame? And if that's how we're making sense of it, then we're going to be on edge. We're going to be looking for, the next shoe to drop. We're going to be looking for signs of abandonment. Because if we haven't been able to kind of make sense as to why it happened, it's going to feel very random. And, sometimes there's wisdom in recognizing signs that showed up the last time, and that could be actually helpful. But if it crosses a line into you're not able to trust anyone because of what happened, then that's something that we need to look at. And then the other thing is are you making sense of the heartbreak as, not just, well, I had a role in some of this stuff and I recognize my part, but crossing a line into, I got left because I'm unlovable. I got left because I'm not enough. I got left because I'm not attractive enough, or not smart enough, or not competent enough, or not whatever enough. I'm not from a good enough family. And if that's true, then I'm just going to keep getting left. And then now what that does is creates a lot of anxiety for that person around relationships. So what are they going to do with that? Well, people with an anxious attachment, they're going to just kind of like constantly seek reassurance. And I need for you to do anything and everything to prove to me that you're not going to go away. Whereas someone with an avoidant attachment, they're just going to try to maybe just like not get attached at all anymore.
Yeah. I guess like the positive side of that, though, is it's sort of an opportunity to do something differently next time. And I don't know, I'm a really big believer in like, whatever you want God to be, like rejection is God's protection. Like if something doesn't work out, it hasn't worked out for a reason. And that is a very good thing. And then things are going to get better going forward. Yes. Right. How can we kind of like take something not working out or take something romantically that we really, really wanted to happen that just didn't happen and turn that into something positive?
Learn. I think, we need to, first of all, learn about what kind of partner we need to help our needs be met. Right. What am I looking for? What needs were going unmet there? And what kind of person do I want to find in the future? That what traits might they have that I can get those needs met? Are they a better communicator? Are they, whatever it is? And then on top of that, what was my role there? What do I need to work on? It's the difference between where did I fail in the relationship, because we all fail, we all do things that we wish we could do differently, whatever. And how can I learn from those failures, as long as it's not bleeding into, and I am a failure. When it starts going into, I am a failure, then we're stuck. We're locked ourselves up in a box that, we can't get out of. So yeah, I think it really all circles back to how are we making sense of the way that this ended? If we're able to make sense of it in healthy ways, then we'll grow from it.
And I mean, so a lot of this centers around communication, but is there such a thing as telling your partner too much? Like what things should just be kept to yourself or kept to your friends and not brought into the relationship?
Well, I mean, I think that I don't really advocate that everybody has to tell everybody everything at all. But I do think that we need, emotional support. And so I guess the first question I would say is, well, what's scary about telling your partner this thing? I mean, if you need help with something, then there's a lot of value in talking about it. And if you don't want to bring that thing to your partner, are you able to help yourself with it? And are you able to maybe get help from someone else with it? And I think the most important question, though, is why aren't you wanting to talk about it with them? Right? What's so scary about that? Are you afraid that they'll reject you? Are you afraid that they'll think you're silly? Are you afraid that they'll be disgusted by you? That doesn't necessarily, I don't think I would have a hard, fast rule of like, yes, you should tell them, or no, that you didn't. But it's more about, let's explore what's going on with this topic that you have to question it to begin with.
And in terms of, we unfortunately only have 5 minutes left. I've just been told. I want to steal you. I want to take you hostage, Julie. But I'm not. I won't do that to you, because I'd be arrested. I'm just gonna pick out my favorite last couple of questions. Do you think that different attachment styles can work out? Right? Like, what do you do if you love differently to another person? If you exhibit it in other ways. One person is very verbal, another person is action oriented. Can that work?
So verbal, action oriented, all of those things, those aren't attachment styles. Those are personality traits, right? Attachment styles are protective strategies that we use in relationships or don't use in relationships. And I don't think that any attachment style other than secure is going to make a relationship thrive. So I am all for people having partners that have an insecure attachment style, as long as they're both committed to growing out of it. It's not a problem if we're starting from a place which, I kind of have this, tendency to kind of stuff my feelings down and not talk about things, and want to, if, my partner brings up uncomfortable feelings, I have this kind of tendency to push them away because I don't know what to do with them. And I understand this about myself, and I'm working on that. Or, I get a lot of anxiety, and I do want to sometimes resolve things right then and there when it might not be the best time to do that. And that's something that I'm working on. But ultimately, we're going to be limited to the degree that we have any type of insecure attachment.
And what's the number one thing that people come to you with?
Emotional disconnection and emotional unsafety when they talk about difficult topics and fighting. So it's just both, they're kind of both the same thing. So they get stuck in these negative cycles, and in these negative cycles, they are creating wounds and disconnection. And I just need to move them out of that and teach them how to heal the past ones.
It's so interesting. Like, I guess, like, you know, because we've spoken about a lot of this over the last hour or so, but it's just, the root of it just seems to be being honest and communicating.
I think so. Honest in a way that is emotionally supportive. I think that the issue is emotional support. And is the honesty, because honesty can be supportive or not supportive. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't phrase myself well. I meant more that it's something that's so simple, but that has been made, that is so complicated also. Like, you know, struggling to figure out who you are, how to communicate in a certain way, how to actually identify what's going on. Why is something that should be like a basic human thing, like, so complicated?
Because we're not taught. Yeah, it is. It's actually pretty simple. That's why I just encourage people to, learn just two things. Learn how to better support yourself emotionally and how to be emotionally supportive to your partner. If both partners are doing that, you can't go wrong. I mean, it might take a while to kind of integrate it all and practice, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But that is it. That is it at the end of the day, is learning how to feed yourself emotionally and each other. And if you can learn how to cook, you can learn how to do it. I mean, it's just like a skill.
I mean, I can cook, but I never tell men that I date that I can, because I don't want them to think that I'm going to.
Yeah, don't do that.
I don't tell them. I don't know.
It's like I don't tell my husband that I know how to work our grill. I just don't tell him. I'm like, no, exactly. That's your job.
Exactly.
You're doing that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I have one more question for you, and it's one that I ask every guest when they come on, and it can be whatever you want it to be, Julie. So I always ask, how do you get wet when you're dry? And some people use this as an opportunity to say, love yourself. Other people use it as an opportunity to talk about, the joys of recovery. And then some people say, like, butt plugs or lube. So basically, there's range, and you can go wherever you want to go.
All right, let me think about this one. I'm going to go with... This is so silly. I don't know if I'm answering this right, but my like hobbies are skiing and studying Italian. So that is what I do to feel like have fun. That's how I have fun.
So you nourish yourself.
I nourish myself in those 2 ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important though. Nourishing yourself. Put your mask on first.
Exactly.
This was so cheesy. Anyway, on that note, I am like, Julie, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Yeah.
I am leaving this a wiser woman and a less obnoxious person to be with. So my future conquests, thank you.
Oh gosh, you're killing me.
A huge thank you to Julie for coming on the show, and absolutely zero thank you to my producer, Ollie. Fuck Ollie. Oh, I don't mean it. I don't. Okay, I actually really want to take back the fuck you, Ollie, because you are the light of my life. This whole recording, I was just looking at the fact that I look like a matador. Please get your questions in to our Instagram account. The handle is @WetWindDryPod. Fuck, is that what it is? @WetWindDryPod. That's the handle. You can get your questions in there. Ollie, are you yawning? You're meant to pretend this is good, and you can't even pretend this is good. You're yawning.